So let's suppose I'm saying like we created a culture. So what we are doing, let me go with a declare im cursor select. I'm going with a small table instead of those. Okay. So basically, this is a declaration of the cursor. And if I can say here, open and this cursor. So basically, we are opening a cursor. Okay. So if I have to go line by line of this record and I have to do some calculation like if I will get a phone number with a 800, then we have to cut three character of this. And if I got a 800, you can say 900, then we have to cut last four character. Okay. So this process you have to implement. Each and every record wise, you have to change your thought or you have to change your logic. Then you can't go with a directly a straightforward query, and those query will not help you. So we are going with a cursor basically. So if I selected this, created this cursor and selected this table, it means all the data of this, you can say, table kept into this imply cursor basically. So it's just like a variable, and if we can try to search like if I'm going with a h next basically. So from the cursor this. So one by one we are fetching a data from this cursor only. And this is a dynamic cursor. Dynamic. So if anything, like let's suppose I started a processing and in between some people came or they directly inserting a data into it. So it means if data is inserting, so this cursor will automatically figure out those data and once again they will show your data. Okay. So instead of this, let's suppose I have to go with this. So what I can do in a tuning perspective as a DBA, what you have to suggest it. You have to ask, please go with a like a some loop or while condition. If you are not using fast forward manner, it means you have to go and create your replace your cursor into the while loop. So how we can convert basically? So let me go. I'm going with a I'm declaring as a I as a int, just like a counter basically. Okay. And I'm placing here one instead of like a then. What is our next condition here? And cursor generally, please try to use for the smaller set of data. Don't go with a large set of data. That will degrade also performance. Next step, we have to select your table. Okay. Let's in your table, we have a imply ID, it's a sequence number. Then no need to create any auto number basically. If your table does not have a auto number or add identity column into the table, you have to create a auto number. Okay. So if I can say, if you want to go with this table for the row-based processing, here is a business ID. And if you can check with a different table, if does not have a, you can say ID, then you have to create a auto identity number you have to create while dumping a data into it. Okay. So how we can process? Because this table is already there and with a employee ID. So first step, you have to count how many records are there. So total, I'm going with the count. I'm just placing 0. For this, I'm going to count a number of record from the employee table. Then what should be next step? While loop, because this is a common while loop in each and every programming language basically. You have to start with a I, and before starting, I'm going to I less than equal to total number. Okay, just like a while loop I'm doing, nothing else. It's a very straightforward. I'm starting with a 0 and I'm saying like I should be less than equal to total. And here I'm going to begin and here is end statement. And same thing I explained, set at the rate I'm increasing with a one value because I have to scan whatever data available into the your table. So now we have two or whatever, like if increase with a two, three, four, that will scan each and every records. Here you have to write to your query. Let me go with a, because I have a three variable here. Okay. So I'm going with a three variable declaration here. Declare at the employee ID int something at the empno. I'm going to varchar. Please try to sync whatever size you are declaring basically, because at a these are also part of designing. So same data type you have to design. Don't go with some different data size. I'm saying here is a int, here 16, here is a 16. So it means if I'm placing 100, it's also wastage of, you can say, location. So you have to go with the same size, whatever size you design into the table. Okay. And next, what I have to do, I have to go with the I. I'm saying I have to select one by one my table, just like a cursor. So I'm selecting my table where, it's a auto identity column. And simply I will pass here I, because I will increase one by one. And here is a total number of records are there. Or you can say instead of count, you can go a max employee ID. That should also work because I want to calculate how many records are there. So I'm starting from, let's suppose I'm going with a one because first time I got one value. So first employee ID will be calculated. Second time automatically they will go with a different value. And let's suppose you want to capture this record and you have to go with expression. So I'm selecting this variable, this value from the table into this variable. And after that, we have to go for the whatever expression or condition you can add here. So you can see you have a three value for now. And for this one, directly I can set whatever value we are getting from I is equal to employee ID. So in each and every variable, you are getting a value of this table generally. So if any person is saying you have you got a code into the SQL Server procedure, please try to suggest they have to go with a, you can say, they have to follow while loop instead of, you can say, go with a cursor basically. And most of the cases you are getting a good performance while converting your process, you can say, cursor into the while loop, because it's not connected with this. And if you want to create some indexes, those indexes here is a usable, because I'm saying I have to go with this index ID, or you can say this email ID I have to select. And here I'm showing you something. Select this and select this. If you have to do any expression, you can go. If I'm saying name, I'm saying like if phone number like I'm going with the 800 something I explained to you. Then what should be expression you have to do? You can do here. That will not stop. Each and every customization you can do inside here. So if I will got this, what I have to do? Something I have to concatenate those and go with a different and condition. If we have another condition, you have to write here another condition. Like if 900, then add something. If I have to go with a something else, you have to go with a different condition. So this is just like you can say cursor. And if you can try to execute, and you got to know this is a straightforward. It's not a complicated. If I can select this table, because whatever condition I added, this not fulfill for second record. Only one record, we got 8,000 or something. Okay. Okay, a six. Let me go with a 699. So that because if I start with a 699, we have to do this operation only. So you can see, oh, I executed all instead of this part only. So now you will get a two records and whatever expression I placed, you can see here. And let's suppose in a final goal, what you have to do, whatever data is creating, you have to keep into the temporary table. So directly you can insert this data into the temporary table on basis of your utilization. Okay. So generally what you have to do as a SQL DBA, infrastructure DBA, you have to suggest to convert whatever cursor they are using into the, you can say, while loop, and you'll get they will get a good performance. And while loop also work just like a cursor, row-based processing, but this table, or you can say while loop is not closely connected with a table. So that's why we are getting a good performance. Okay. So let's move for the database designing basically. Okay, where is your question? So database designing, what you have to keep in your mind while designing your data. So first point, so Arun, do you have any query regarding like a cursor or any question?
No, we are right now not. But we want to ask something that after this class, please schedule one more class with me only because I want to ask something and show you something, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Okay, so
Can,
right now, like
can
after this class, or because we have a one another class 9:30.
9:30. So here I want to show something, but not in front of any other. Actually, I was doing something on my home environment, so that's why.
Okay, what I'm doing, I will stop recording and maybe
Okay,
second also I'll understand it's not a problem for us. We'll not
okay,
stop. We'll stop recording. Okay, you can share your screen and we'll try to explore.
okay, okay, okay.
So let me try to cover this point only designing. So what should be common ask? Let's suppose I'm saying I'm a data modeler or designer. What we have to do, like while starting a database modeling, why we are designing? First question, why we are going to design your database? Because if existing, then why we are designing? What's issue we are facing initially in our old systems? We have to ask those. But main point, you can say while designing, you have to check like whatever existing data into the archival or you can say historical data warehouse on basis of available, you can set your data types. First you have to go with a minimal to minimal data types. Like let's suppose I know I have to pass like a state ID or country ID, it's not more than like 1,000. So why I can go with a big int instead of teeny int, or you can say small int, or you can say normal int. Okay. So first focus, if you are declaring any designing your table with a high, you can say data types, it means whatever like a, because when we are creating any table and creating one attribute or whatever attributes, so it means we are allocating a space into the your data pages or in your database, or in you can say in your disk basically. So first case, if your table size should be a small, you will get a good performance. If we have 1,000 record or maybe lakhs record, you'll get a good performance. But let's suppose I created a blob data types. You know blob data types like a text, varchar max, or you can say image binary data type I created. So one table have 1,000 record and size, it's a near about, I'm saying like a 50 GB. So that case you'll get a, you can say low performance. So is while designing your table, keep in your mind you have to go with a smallest data type on basis of your requirement. For our case, pin code not more than for India application. I'm developing, designing a table for Indian apps. So we'll not use like a more than 6 character data types. You can say it's for the pin code only. So on basis of you have to restrict and create your table. And you in a previous like a question I already explained. Instead of going with a null, you have to find out can we restrict with a not null value? Because if we are not using, then you have to create a separate table. I'm saying, let's suppose gender, and gender is not important for all people. I'm not saying this is not important, but let's take one example. Address 2 and address 3 is not important for all people. So instead of creating a one table with a multiple column address 1, address 2, address 3, you have to create a separate table, normalized table you have to create. And whatever employee ID, whatever like a people ID are there, only you have to mention there so that you will get a less null value into the systems. You got my point?
Yes.
Let's suppose I'm saying like a varchar max. Generally, when we are trying to like a migrate one source to SQL Server, so what we did, we creating you can say varchar max data type and all data we are dumping into it. But let's suppose after that we have to start actual data modeling because I got a data from the MySQL and Oracle into the SQL Server, and once again you have to start. And you know RDS near about same. If I'm saying here a big int or in a Oracle they are going with a numeric data types, something like that. Let's suppose there is a timestamp here. We are going with a, you can say timestamp is also there, date time is also there. So you have to restrict whatever data types available into the systems and try to go with a smallest size so that you can meet your requirement. Let's suppose I'm saying like I have to go with the, I'm saying like a Varchar max is a very important for us, but I'm restricting with a 255. It means we are restricting our business. So both factor you have to consider while modeling your database. And most of the time, if you are going for the OLTP modeling, you have to go with a normalize. And normalize, a maximum like a first, second, third normal form, you can go. But if you are designing your data for the reporting server or OLAP environment, reporting server, you can keep all the data into the one place, one group set of data into one place, so that no need to make a join with a multiple table. And if we are doing a join with a multiple table, we can create indexes, unlimited indexes you can create into the reporting environment, but you can't create into the OLTP environment, because if you are creating an index, it means when application is writing a data into table, so they have to follow whatever indexes created. It means each and every index should be updated basically. So index creation, or you can say table creation. You're designing for the OLAP, OLTP, or you can say reporting. Those points you have to keep in your mind. And first point, you have to go with a small data types instead of going with some generic or high level data types. One another issue I'm saying, let's suppose I created one table, city, like a city name. So instead of creating a city name, you have to create user defined type. Let's suppose tomorrow you want to increase the size of user defined type. You have to update one place and automatically update it into the each and every places. So no need to go and create and change for the multiple table, like 1,000 table are there and 1,000 table have a city columns are there, let's suppose. So if I have to change one by one each and every, like a master table, transaction table, go and update those, and it's a complicated. So instead of going with an individual data type, you have to create your custom data type, user defined type, and those type you have to map with a user defined table. So if any changes required, so you can directly change in your user defined type and automatically reflected into the each and every table. So generally this type of problem we are facing. So for this case, each and every place we are modifying into the procedure, function, each and every site. So if you are using this type of data type into the procedure, function, or you can say table as well, you'll be getting a good performance and you'll be getting a frequent changes into your system basically. Got my point?
Yes, Priya.
So let me stop recording, okay? And I'm adding you access. So I'm stopping a recording, and if you can so Zach, do you have any problem if he will start sharing because he has to share something in a SQL instance? Maybe he is facing
Not,
some issue.
not,
Okay, so
yeah,
I'm
not a
stopping a
problem,
record.
Mr.